Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the Benchmade Super-Freek. So one of the things that I was looking for in my knife collection was a Benchmade and a Spyderco. Like I said, they're two pinnacles of the knife industry. You should at least have one of those so you know what the competition's up against. This is the Super-Freek, which was the first Benchmade that actually really drew me to it. I really liked this G10 textured handle here, along with the black, and then there's a sparing little bit of red there in the inner G10 handle, and then there's the red spacers there. So I love that little contrast. Let's talk about this. This right here is the axis lock, and this is the thing that makes a Benchmade. So this little lock here has two little almost paperclip size springs in there, and they're called Omega springs. Now this is contentious because most knives have no springs, right? So this is just, a lock bar, you move it, it is what it is. Pretty much all other knives, at least that I have, there's no springs. It's just your own action that you put into it and then the return. In fact, in a lot of states, any sort of assisted action is actually just flat out illegal. So anyway, back to this. So this is interesting. This is milled almost like a U, and then that bar, that crossbar, comes up. So when it's those Omega springs activated, it pushes it up, and then your knife is your blade is locked in place. Otherwise, when you pull it down, you're fighting that Omega spring action. There are two of them, which is nice, one on each side. However, it induces a point of failure, which is a contention amongst a lot of people who would criticize Benchmade. There have been a lot of stories about Omega springs breaking. That's kind of my inner fear with this. The advantage of the Omega system here, it's really smooth, right? So when you pull it down, the knife just drops like that. So when you activate it, you're fighting, that spring tension from the Omega spring, just on the lock bar. There's no spring tension on the blade. But when you active or deactivate that system there, your knife just hangs loose. So that free play is like super fidgety. Here we go. Let's zoom out, right? So you got super fidgety, and you can get like really quick and good with it. It's really easy. So that's what makes a Benchmade is that axis lock there. We've got advantages and disadvantages, which we just spoke about. Let's get more into this knife. All right, so this one is an M4 blade coated with like a titanium nitride type thing to prevent rust and stuff. The M4 blade, at least Benchmade calls it a super steel, is a very good blade, holds an edge really well. It's less corrosion resistant, and that's its real downfall. But, for the toughness and the, edge retention, that's the downfall there. Now, this freak, just like my Spidey Chef that I, pimped out, I also went ahead and decked out this thing too. So the red obviously spoke to me from the get-go with the black and then the red standoffs there. So I went ahead and I got red thumb deployment there, and I got matching red hardware. I got a deep carry clip. Hold on a sec. Let's deactivate this. Oh, the other advantage I should say of the axis lock is most other knives, you've got the lock bar, so your finger comes in contact with the path of the blade. So this one, you can deactivate it without ever putting your fingers in there. So that's another nice thing about the axis lock. Anyway, back over to the clip. This one was an aftermarket clip. When you get it, it'll come with this more Spartan clip here. And as you can see, the clip it comes with, not deep carry. I ended up getting a deep carry. I like deep carry on all my clips if I can help it. So aftermarket clip, that's the stock clip. Aftermarket red hardware. I will say I've disassembled every knife I have except for the IKBS bearing systems, just because they're not caged. Anyway, I've disassembled pretty much every knife I had. I've never stripped any screws until this one. So I ended up stripping out one of these screws, and then after the fact, looking up online, there's, other horror stories like mine, and it turns out Benchmade is a little heavy on the Loctite sometimes. So if you're gonna, mess around with your Benchmade, one of the things you could do is get a soldering iron and then just use the soldering iron, touch it to the tip of the screw, and that way it'll heat up just the area with the screw and you won't hurt the G10. And I really wish I did that beforehand, because this is the only screw I've ever stripped on any of my knives. But it is what it is. That one doesn't have a little red one. I don't intend on breaking this thing for the Omega springs. Otherwise, I guess I'm sending it back to the factory. But that is my my freak, or Super-Freek. and that's how I pimped it out. So I do like this thing. Let's get back into kind of more overall things. It has a very nice like ergonomic feel. You've got a little thumb rest here with a little bit of kind of knurling up there. I enjoy the fact that it's got many ways to deploy. So you've got the thumb stud, right? So if you're in public and nice slow deployment, nothing spooky. If you really just want to have fun, right, you've got the Fidget Factor. For some reason, though, that will spook some people, right? So that loud click with a sudden deployment, some people will be weary of that. So do be aware if you're in public, at least around where I live. So this thing, it's weighted okay. I mean, the point of balance is right about where it should be. A little bit, yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's right about where it should be, right about on your index finger. It's nothing like, I don't know, it doesn't feel weighty. That's the G10, right? It doesn't feel weighty. It feels a little bit top heavy when you're holding it, even though the balance is there. And I think that's just the G10, but overall it's still fine. Reverse grip is good. I like this kind of point here. It is, you can see those clips there. If you wanted, you could put the clip on that side too, so that's a nice little touch. Let's do some size comparisons. Here it is against that Spidey Chef. Definitely thicker. Here it is against a Bestech Ornetta. Here it is next to a Leatherman Wave, because I think I'm going to start throwing those into the comparison, because a lot of you know, folks will have a Leatherman around. So, all right, here we go. We'll come up above a little bit. So you can see it's a little bit more stout than some of its competition, and that's okay. Like I said, I don't mind when it fills your hand a little bit more. Pros and cons. Pros: the M4 steel on the blade is really cool in its own right. They, you know, it's called a super steel for a reason. This thumb hump right there, I like that. I like that little place there. I also enjoy the axis lock for its fidgetability, and if you get into that, you know, you can get really quick. Another pro with the axis lock is just like you noticed there when it didn't fully engage, my fingers were in no danger because you do not put your fingers into the path of this blade in its entirety. So other knives, you do have to do that, right? So when you push that lock bar in, boom, you could go down. I've never done it myself, but you know, it's a possibility. So that's another pro of this axis lock design. I enjoy the aftermarket customization. So the fact that this had all sorts of aftermarket parts that I could order, all three of these things, the clip, the hardware, the thumb stud, you know, that was really cool. Cons. So the cons of this knife include the potential failure point of the Omega springs, which is a particular concern to me because I'm a fidgeter. So, you know, if you're just using it under natural circumstances, like boom one, you know, boom like that, you're done, right? If you're just doing that a couple times a day, not a big deal, right? So if I'm a fidgeter and I'm doing this all day long, right? Each one of those is a use of that spring. Not only that, but the consistent use. If you've ever worked with a paper clip and, you know, you just keep going, you know that the more you do it in quick succession, the more the degradation of the steel. And I feel like that might come to haunt me sometime with my fidgetability. Another con is, personally, I like more of a protective part of the frame there. And what I mean by that is on most blades, your flipper, the flipper tab, also acts as an extra point of protection, so your hand doesn't slip up over the blade. So with this particular design, you don't have that. They do put a little hump there, which is nice for, you know, ergonomics and stuff like that, but it's not an actual protection if you were like really, you know, jamming into something. But that's just a component of this design. And, you know, they would say it's smoother back here, whereas most other knives always have that protrusion. So those are the pros and cons of the Benchmade Super-Freek. otherwise, you know, this is a nice blade. I can definitely safely recommend it to anybody. If you're interested in this blade, I would say go for it. If you're looking at a Benchmade and you're looking at this model, then you already know what you're doing, and you know it's a good model. You know what you're getting, and this is it's well wielded, and mine is kind of pocket loved. You can see I don't actually, you know, use it too much, but I can say if you're looking at this and you know what you're getting, then this is a good knife. It handles well. The balance is still good there, even though it's lighter than I'd like. The balance is there, you know what I mean? And the axis lock is super fidgety, and it's a Benchmade. It's an M4. But my quality has been fine. All right, guys, thank you for watching the review of the Benchmade Super-Freek.